All right, you guys, welcome to this video. Today I want to show you how to do some bookkeeping using Excel. And this would probably be for some really small businesses that need to get some information for tax preparation, or maybe you need to get some numbers for a bank or maybe a lender, something like that. But we're going to show you how to do it in Excel pretty quickly if you need to do that using Pivot. So what I have here is just my original data. So what you do is you log into your bank and you get the CSV data, and then you just export it into Excel. And then next up from here is what we're going to do is this is going to be the beginning data, and then this is going to be the end data to where we can go and have different columns showing money coming in, money spent for a grand total. So that way that you can get that either for taxes or to your tax guy at tax time, or any other uses that you may have just wanting to know your numbers. So some of the first steps that we're going to do is we have a lot of different categories across the top up here. And so really what we need to do is if you're using like a QuickBooks software, there's really only four categories that you need. It's just date, maybe your bank details, the payee, your categories, how to categorize it, and then what's the money spent or received. And so we're just going to work through and do that real quick. And I'm just going to show you how to do it. So first thing we have is transaction ID. So we do not need this. And then we have a posting date and an effective date. They look like they're pretty similar all the way across. So we're going to delete one of them. And then we have a transaction type just showing, hey, was it a debit? Was it a credit? We don't need that. So I'm just right clicking and hitting delete. Amount's going to be pretty important. And then check number, we don't need that. We don't need a reference number, so we can delete that. And then here we have description. Then over here we have category. So I'm going to leave these two for now. Type, we don't need to know. And then balance, it's always good to know what your balance is, but we don't need it for this. And then we have an extended description. So you can see over here that we have business license. And so we can just type business license here. So really we can just get rid of this additional, and then this memo is gone right here. So really we just have the 1, 2, 3, 4 items that we need to do what we're going to work on. So, and then there's a certain order that I like to put them in. So I always like to start with date. And then I like to have like a bank detail is how I would call it. And then we're over here, maybe we're going to call this payee, my bad. Then over here, we're going to have a bank detail here. And then the amount is really just money coming in, money going out. So I like to have that over here on the end. So if you highlight this, grab your little green bar here, then we can just slide that over to here. So that way amounts on the end. So I like to see my date. And then I really like to see my bank detail first. I can grab this, put that right there, get rid of this. So to see this a little bit easier, sometimes it'll squish if you just highlight this, then give it a little double click, and that just spaces it out for you. So now we have our date, we have our bank detail, we have our payee, and we have our amount. So next thing from here, what we want to do is just make sure that we go in and categorize. So actually, I'm going to slide this over, be a little bit easier when we do our pivot table. That's how I like to see my information generally. So let's do a little insert here. Slide that over. So then this is going to be a little bit easier. So then what we want to do for our pivot table is we know who the payee is going to be, and then we want to give it some detail. So on the detail, I'd like to give it to what category I would like to classify this as. So if I have a business license, maybe I just do like licenses and permits. And as tax people, we have our certain categories that we like to use. I try to keep the same categories for all my clients. I'm actually going to call this category so that it's easy to do taxes at tax time. So I'd maybe call gasoline, automobile expense. If it's a deposit, we can leave it. Maybe we can call it income. If it's a Lumen technology, this is really our internet. J Dogs, we haven't had that. It's just it's a restaurant, so we can put this to meals. Usually called meals and entertainment. I like to call this income instead of deposits. So T-Mobile, this is going to be business cell phone. So we just have a little side hustle job that we do. Um, Adrian's custom cleaners. So this was actually some laundry. I'll let you DIY cleaning. So we do a tax strategy as well. So if you don't know how to deduct your laundry and cleaning, then you can always look into our tax strategy. Wingers restaurant, so might call that meals and entertainment. Again, licenses and permits, income, 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 income. If it's a merchant account, then I like to use merchant fees, auto, and then meals. So as you're looking through your bank detail, a lot of times it'll just give you a little bit of memo detail. And so this is most likely going to be pretty spelled out for you that you can then categorize it pretty easy. And then probably the next thing that I would do is I like to see this. If you come up to here, you can either do number or accounting. So you could do number. I think number looks pretty clean. Or you could use accounting, which has the negatives and the positives. And then one other cool feature that you can always do is you can come over to your sort filters. You can always sort these amounts. So you could do smallest to largest there. Obviously, the smallest would be money going out. The positive is money coming in. So if we wanted to see, hey, how did this business do, my little side hustle do during the month of May? You can see these transactions are in May. And the next things that you're going to do is if these are the different categories that we want. So now we just want to be able to sum them up. So you could go through and you could highlight here and then come over and type cell phone 332.59. And if you have to look for another one and then add that up, be super time consuming. So what we want to do is we want to make this as easy as possible. So all you need to do is highlight these two categories right here, come over to insert, click on pivot table here. And that's going to bring up this. We just want to say, hey, put all this in the existing worksheet. And then the location, let's just slide it right here. And we're going to do these two columns. We're going to come over to, we're going to click OK. And over here, this is our pivot field. So you can see we have category and amount that we're trying to use. So if we click this category, now it's starting to sum our categories. Now we click the amount. Now it's going to bring in sum of amounts for all those amounts. And so we're good to go. And so then the way to double check, so this is going to be our net amount right here, 3,327. So if we just came over here and we sum out down here in the bottom, we look at our sum, 3,327.05, $3,327.05. So now this is just going to be the data that you need to see. So they do it in alphabetical order, A, B, C, right here. So our income would be 4,261 for the month. And then we have our expenses in here. And they're all summed up, so we don't have to go through and manually do all that. So inside here, if you want to say, hey, what was everything less the income? So I just want to see all my expenses. You can just click that, gets rid of everything. So now we can see, okay, our total expenses were $934. If we wanted to see maybe just what our income was. And we can say, hey, let's unselect all those. Let's just grab our income. What do we look like? 4,261.52. So super easy to get that data over and really start seeing what your numbers are. So if we have a side hustle and we're making an extra, what was that, $3,000 a month, then we can try to make better business decisions saying, hey, all right, what I look at is what is the purpose of income? Well, the purpose of this side income is to create cash flow for the household. What is the purpose of the expenses, these negative amounts? These negative amounts are expenses to make the business more profitable. So then we can look in here and say, hey, did automobile make my income go up? Did having a cell phone make my income up? Having internet, did that make my income go up? The laundry and cleaning, did that help my income go up? And then we can really analyze these numbers to see. So in this little side hustle, we did a little bit of travel. So we have our automobile deduction. When we're out of town, we can write off our laundry and cleaning. Little tip there. I have to have my cell phone. I have to have internet to do my little side gig. And then I always make sure that I'm licensed and registered in the states that I'm working in. So I had a little bit of license fees there. When I was traveling, I had some meals, and that's a little bit on the high side, but we went to a really nice dinner to talk to some clients. And then in order to collect my income, the bank took a little bit of a fee there for a merchant fee. So if you had a little side gig making a little bit of, couple $1,000s a month, how much more would you want to proceed making that business work, right? So we have a couple of business ideas that we have going. Sometimes they take a little bit of time to get them started up, but once they get rolling, then you can see each day we are making a little bit of income. Had some big income here, some deposits here. So we did pretty good this month. So I love family businesses. I love helping my kids be entrepreneurial minded. And so these are areas that I know if you're working at W-2, both of you, maybe you can start a little side gig with your family, bring in a little bit of extra money, and you don't have to go and work your job overtime hours to make it happen. You can go and make these things happen on your own. So this is a good way that if you do start a little business, you can just pull in the CSV data from your bank. Super easy. If you don't know how to do that, just hop on ChatGPT and ask how to pull the CSV data from my bank. Gives you pretty much step by step on how to do that. We're going to put it into 4 categories. We don't need the 10 different categories. We just need the date it happened. We need to see who the payment was to. So we like to see the payments there. We're going to see the deposits pretty easy. Usually just have one merchant account. Maybe you use Venmo, maybe you use Stripe. And then we're just going to categorize it. If you don't know what all your tax deductions can be, here's a quick tip for those that have watched the last 13 minutes of my video. You only have to have 4 things. You have to have a business purpose. It has to be an ordinary expense, which means it has to be typical for what you're working on, has to be necessary. And so that's why I like to look at these numbers. If I'm spending money, are these necessary to generate a profit? Yes, they are. And do I have documentation? Am I keeping receipts for these automobile receipts? Usually it's pretty easy to have receipts for cell phones and internet. Did I keep a receipt for my laundry cleaning, the permits, the mills? We want to keep those receipts. So you have those 4 things. Business purpose has to be ordinary, necessary, and documentation is always key because without the receipt, without the documentation, the deduction can always be taken away from the IRS. So hopefully this helps you guys. We're going to do another video here pretty soon showing what my chart of account items are. I have a list and I have them pretty dialed in that it works for probably 90% of my businesses that I work on with bookkeeping and tax returns. All right. Thanks for watching. Watch for more videos. We're going to be dropping a lot more content. Love to see you there.